This is Look West, a podcast from California's Assembly Democrats.
It's not just about putting up monuments and changing names. It's about coming to terms with a nation and a state for the horrid past and treatment towards, here in this case, California's First People, so that healing could start to take place. That healing has never taken place here in the state. It's starting to now, but we have a long way to go.
Long before California became California, the Miwok Indians lived, hunted, and fished in the region that would become known as Sacramento. Now, more than 150 years after California became a state, there's a monument to California's first people on the grounds of the state capitol. Hi, I'm Connor Turcott with Look West. On a cool, breezy morning during Native American Heritage Month, an 8-foot-tall bronze statue of William Franklin Sr. was unveiled in Capitol Park. Hundreds of tribal leaders, dignitaries, and students from a nearby middle school that now bears the Miwok name gathered for the unveiling.
I'll count to 3. Hook, were, pahi. I do want to mention, too, for those of you guys who are wondering, Grandpa Bill's, we have him facing directly at the rotunda. And just to share a little information, when we asked how we wanted him positioned, we wanted him to keep an eye on the Capitol. Let everybody know that we're watching what you're doing, right? So for those of you guys who know, Grandpa Bill's going to always keep his eye for Indian country on that Capitol over there for us.
The Franklin Monument specifically recognizes Sacramento area tribes and bands, but, as Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas said during the unveiling ceremony, it really represents all of California's first people.
As many of you know, the land we are standing on, the land we are surrounded by, belongs to California's first people. And the unveiling of this monument honors the many tribes who continue to thrive here. Here and across our state, this moment, this day, belongs to all of you.
For the tribal leaders, the dedication of the Franklin statue is significant and historic. Jesus Tarango is the chair of the Wilton Rancheria.
Today's unveiling signifies the start of a new era here in California at our state capitol. One where we stop uplifting a false narrative and start honoring the original stewards of this land by telling a true and accurate portrayal of California's journey to statehood. Today is simply not an attempt to erase or rewrite history. On the contrary, it is an important step in telling an honest account of what happened on this land. It also serves as a reminder to every California Native person that is here today or in the future that our simple existence is a true miracle, and that we owe it not only to those who came before us, but also the future generations to continue to take up this fight. It is a reminder to occupy the spaces they have fought so hard to create and to use it for the betterment of all California people and not let outside forces or interests divide us, because we are so much stronger when we work together to achieve these great accomplishments.
Andrea Reich is the chair of the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians.
As I stand beside my fellow leaders and amongst my community members, I am celebrating. Celebrating because this could not have been done without the hard work, leadership, dedication to this project, and support of the citizens and councils that we each serve. It's important to embrace and promote education about our history, and this statue is another step in that direction. This statue represents a symbol of strength in carrying on and sharing our teachings and our traditions so that they are not forgotten to all. This statue represents resilience shown by our ancestors to continue teaching and upholding those traditions that they fought and sacrificed so much to hold on to pass down to the generations of today. I'm so excited to share this statue with all who come to visit the Capitol grounds, honoring all of California's First Peoples, determined to never let their language, those teachings, and our traditions be torn away from us. As we dedicate this statue today, I hope that all of the visitors of the Capitol grounds can now acknowledge the people that came before them and the people that once occupied these lands. Miko wala takmu. From me to all of you, I thank you.
Robert Geary is the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Elam Indian Colony of Pomo Indians.
Today is a good day. Today is a day that we see a likeness like us. Today is a strong day that gives us the opportunity to show that we're still here, like we heard before. Even though we walk by you, we're in our nice jackets and pants and everything else, and we're not in our feathers. We walk amongst you, and we're still here.
And Sarah Dushke is the chair of the Ione Band of Miwok Indians.
Installation of this amazing statue honoring our elder Bill Franklin represents a very significant and historic shift in the way we as Miwok people and California Indian people are viewed at the state's capital. This monument is an important step in righting the wrong of erasing the true history around California Indian people. But it's also more than just a representation of the past. It represents not only who we were as Indian people, but who we continue to be today. We're not just relics of the past. Some still think that. We are certainly more than the businesses we operate. We continue to survive and thrive as communities who value and celebrate culture and tradition on a daily basis. We dance and sing in precisely the same way that our ancestors did. We continue to support one another in our endeavors within our own tribes and among the other tribes. I'm really excited that now when adults and in particular children, and there's a lot of them out there today, visit the state capitol, they'll be able to see a true representation of the first people of these lands. And it's a representation of us, by us, one that we chose, and one that will help everybody understand who we truly are as California Indian people. But even more importantly, and I say this as somebody who grew up very traditionally here in California, at a time when maybe when I was young, it wasn't super popular still to be Native American, to be Indian. Most importantly, our own people can now see themselves reflected and honored here in the state's capital. That's long overdue. Citizens of the Ione Band and the other sponsoring tribes can take pride in the fact that they have contributed to this important monument in history. No longer will our children feel invisible on their own land or be made to feel as though our history doesn't matter. Instead, they'll see themselves reflected in the statue and be reminded of the strength of our people.
The story behind how the statue of William Franklin came to be installed in Capitol Park includes George Floyd, Junipero Serra, and Assemblymember James Ramos. We'll get to that in just a moment. First, just who is William Franklin? Chairman Tarango told us there are many William Franklins.
Well, William Franklin, depending on how you ask that to certain people, he was my uncle, but I called him Grandpa. He was a grandpa to me. He was my, in our world, we call our dance captains hayapos, and Bill Franklin was our hayapo. But I think when you look at a Bill Franklin, there's thousands of Bill Franklins here in California. When you look at his story, it's very similar story here to the north and the south. Grandpa Bill was one of Sherman. He went to Sherman, the boarding school. That's a big topic right now, what we're talking about. But the beauty in him going to that boarding school, there was others like him. Robert Levi from Torres Martinez, a spiritual leader down there in his region. Jimmy James to the north was also at Sherman, and Bill Franklin. And so, Bill Franklin to me was one of 1,000 people here in our state that wanted more, wanted to preserve our culture, wanted to educate people on our culture. And so, again, it's so fitting to be here. This is his home, his territory. But the statue, to me, in that people say, well, why Bill Franklin? It's because I think it's so easy to say every tribe probably has a Bill Franklin.
During the unveiling of the statue, an emotional Teresa Yonemura, the daughter of William Franklin, enjoyed telling the crowd about her dad.
I know that he touched a lot of lives by all the faces I see here. His children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, And just a little history on him. He was born in Nashville, El Dorado County, September 20th, 1912. His mother died when he was only 3 years old. So him and all of his sisters were orphaned. And they all went to different parts of the state. Some went to Oregon. Some went to Stewart. It's just a brief little history. One reason that he decided to dance and start the dance group is because he wanted, for the sake of preservation and the realization within his own community, but to reach into something that was unsemitic and insensitive American public. He learned how to dance in Ion by Captain Charlie, the keeper of the house, and he was only 10 years old when he first went in. They were chosen. They didn't just get to go up there and say, I want to dance. They were chosen by the elders. And later on, he danced with Frank Powell, A.C. McCauley, Henry Tipman, John Porter, and there was old Dan Gaynor was his person that he looked up to. He wanted to be like this man. And you know what? I guess he succeeded, because by all the faces I see here, he was a proud Native man. He raised all of his kids. He did everything with his dance family. So I'm proud and I'm happy to see all of you here. And that was just a little history of Dad. I could go on for hours and hours, all the things he taught us. When we were younger, every weekend we were gone dancing. We didn't have no sports. We didn't have this. It was always, okay, kids, time to get in the car. We're going to dance. So, that was his life. He led that. He taught us. And hopefully he taught a lot of you people that are out here right now. Aho.
The backstory to the William Franklin Monument goes like this. Back in 1967, James Ramos was born. 38 years later, he ran for his first public office. Now he's the first California Native American to be elected to the state legislature.
I grew up in a mobile home trailer with my mom and Rowena Ramos and my dad, James Ramos, rest his soul, and my brothers and sisters, Elena and Tommy and Kenny, and all in a trailer. And growing up there, it was pretty rough, right? We've seen a lot of substance abuse, alcoholism, those types of things that still plague Indian people to this day. And along the way, we would end up lobbying up here in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And we'd always say that one of us needed to run. And some tried. Marianne Andrea from Morongo, my relative, Hitik Marinam, Serrano Amuhavietam, Serrano, she ran and didn't win, but she came close. And Bonnie Garcia won that seat. And then after that, we kept asking people to run. And finally, someone said, well, why don't you do it? And in 2005, I ran for the Community College Board in San Bernardino County, and then was elected. And then the County Board of Supervisors in 2012 was elected there. And then in 2018, attained the assembly seat that I now sit in.
2 years later, in May of 2020, George Floyd was murdered by police. Protests raged all around the country, including Sacramento. During one of the protests, a statue of Junipero Serra, a symbol of oppression to many, was toppled. Assemblymember James Ramos is in his second term in the Assembly and recognized the opportunity to replace the statue of a person who had enslaved natives with a monument honoring them. So he wrote Assembly Bill 338.
I ran a bill because I'm in the legislature. I could run bills now. So I ran AB 338 that would, in place of that statue, put up a statue to California's Indian people. And It was an effort. We had to get it through the Assembly and the Senate. We hit some roadblocks, but became successful, and the governor signed it into law. And now, for the first time in the state's history, there'll be a monument honoring basically all the California Indian people, specifically the Miwok Nisenan people from this area. Those tribes came together to work together and lobbied and testified for AB 338. It's almost like a way of correcting the history in the state of California, because now students and even adults that visit the Capitol will see a statue dedicated to California's first peoples.
Ramos has given a strong voice to Native Americans. He told Look West why it's so important for people to know the accurate history of California.
So it's really important because no one could start to heal unless someone comes to terms with and acknowledges a past, a horrid past, in this case, to California Indian people. California came into be a state in 1850, one of the first acts in 1850 by the governor at that time, moved forward to put out a bounty on California Indian people, paying money, militias in the state of California with taxpayers' dollars to go out, shoot and kill Indian people. That happened in 1850 and moved forward. So a lot of times the history books do not even mention about the militias that were formed with taxpayers' dollars, or even the treatment towards Native American women during that time. And still, to this day, we had to run a bill in 2022 that actually was AB 2022 that got rid of a derogatory name towards Native American women. And we call it the S word. It's so derogatory for us that we don't even say it. But it took till the year 2022 for the state to acknowledge that that term is derogatory towards Native American women. So it's not just about putting up monuments and changing names. It's about coming to terms with a nation and a state for the horrid past and treatment towards, here in this case, California's first people, so that healing could start to take place. That healing has never taken place here in the state. It's starting to now, but we have a long way to go.
Chairman Tarango also told Look West why he believes it's critical for all Californians to know the real story of their state.
It means the world to me. Being I would say one of the younger leaders in our state, in Indian country, we grow up knowing what our history is. We grow up knowing our culture, most of us, but it's the other cultures and the other peoples that live in our great state that don't understand. And so for me, it's very significant to tell that true story because none of us here were alive 100 years ago, 250 years ago. And so for us to figure out where we're at today and where we're trying to go, to me, you can't do that until you understand each other. And again, California has to me, the darkest history in the United States as it pertains to the treatment of the first inhabitants. And so for people to understand who my people are today, you have to understand where we come from. And you have to understand that also we're different. There's 109 federally recognized tribes in California. And so it's not cookie cutter. So you have to really take the time to learn about us individually, if you'd like to, but I think that it's very significant for us to tell the accurate history so that people could have the full gamut of who these people are, why are they, what do they eat, what do they do, what do they believe in, and so for me, very important for us to tell the true, accurate history of our state.
As we wrapped up our discussion with Assemblymember Ramos, we asked him if California is a leader when it comes to rectifying its past abuses of Native Americans.
I think California has a long way to go. Certainly, we have missing and murdered Indigenous women. California is number 5 of all states of unresolved and uninvestigated murders against Native American people. But also, we've led areas. The state of California is leading in a formal apology to California's first people. Land is being returned to tribes throughout the state of California for conservation, and their voices are being heard. The Truth and Healing Council that the governor put together is charged with the task of coming together, looking at the past treatment, but also having a plan presented to the state legislature. And so California is leading the way. California and signing of AB 1936 of changing a prestigious law school's name here on the side of California Indian people is historic. California continues to lead the way in that aspect, but also coming to terms with a horrid past. California continues to lead the way in holding UCs and Cal State universities accountable for the repatriation of Native American remains, that the governor and the Speaker of the Assembly, Speaker Rivas, has supported in making sure that over 700,000 at the Cal State University system and over 500,000 at the UC system, well over 1.5 million remains of ancestors get back to the proper people for proper reburial.
We want to thank all the tribal leaders, especially Chairman Tarango, for being a part of this Look West episode. And a special thank you to Assemblymember Ramos for being on the show. I'm Connor Turcotte. Listen for a new Look West episode on the third Thursday of every month. Thank you for listening.
The Look West podcast is produced by California Assembly Democrats. When you think of Californian politics, remember to look west.